The Galactic Council chamber floated in the darkness of space like a massive crystal palace, orbiting the purple world of Vex Prime. Inside its gleaming halls, delegates from 47 different alien species gathered for their most important meeting, an event that happened only once every 1,000 years. Ambassador Taehyun stood at the center podium, his 3 eyes scanning the crowd with barely hidden contempt. The tall, gray-skinned Vex diplomat touched a control panel, and a holographic image appeared in the air above him. It showed a small blue and green planet spinning slowly in the darkness. "This world is called Earth," Taehyun announced, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. "The creatures who live there call themselves humans. They have sent us a message asking for friendship and trade." Laughter erupted from every corner of the room. The insect-like Krell clicked their sharp mandibles in amusement. The floating gas beings called Nephra glowed with colors that meant they found this hilarious. Counselor Vixare, a massive insect creature, leaned forward in her seat. "What kind of weapons do these humans have?" Taehyun waved his hand and new images appeared. They showed crude metal ships, simple guns that shot metal bullets, and rockets powered by burning chemicals. "They still use kinetic weapons," he said, making the words sound like an insult. "They shoot metal pieces using explosions. Their biggest ships are barely 1 kilometer long. They have been in space for only 300 of their years." More laughter filled the chamber. Some species were laughing so hard they could barely stay in their seats. 300 years and no plasma shields? A voice boomed from the back. It belonged to Reth, a being made entirely of living crystal. "We had quantum drives by that point in our development. These humans are like children playing with toys." Taehyun showed his sharp teeth in what passed for a smile among his people. "Exactly. They are primitives. Barely worth our notice. I propose we ignore their message completely and file it away with all the other irrelevant species we have discovered." "I agree," shouted dozens of voices at once. The High Arbiter, an ancient Vex named Lux Ven, raised one clawed hand for silence. "All who agree to ignore the human request, show your agreement now." Every hand, tentacle, wing, and glowing energy field rose into the air. The vote was unanimous. "The decision is made," Lux Ven declared. "The humans are not worthy of our attention." Moving on to the next matter. Far across the galaxy, deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, Ambassador Jiwoo sat in a dark control room watching the council meeting through a secret video feed. Her face remained calm, but her hands gripped the armrests of her chair tightly. "They rejected us," said Admiral Taewon, sitting beside her. His old face showed no emotion, but his eyes were hard as stone. "They did not just reject us," Jiwoo said quietly. "They laughed at us like we are nothing." Fleet Commander Doon stood by the window, looking down at the hidden submarine dock below. In that dock waited ships the Galactic Council knew nothing about. Technology they had never seen. Weapons they could not imagine. "Do we begin Protocol Sigma?" Doon asked. Admiral Taewon stood slowly and walked to the communications console. For 300 years, humanity had been in space. For 300 years, they had watched and listened to the galaxy. They had learned the Council's secrets. They had seen how the Vex Empire controlled everyone through fear and superior technology. Humanity had been patient. They had been careful. They had prepared for this exact moment. "Yes," Admiral Taewon said, his voice firm and steady. "Contact the Indomitable. Tell Captain Minji it is time." "What about the other 7 ships?" Doon asked. "They stay hidden for now," Taewon replied. "The Indomitable will be enough for what comes next." Jiwoo stood and straightened her uniform. She looked at her reflection in the dark window. "When this is over," she said softly, "they will never laugh at us again." 3 days later, news reached the Galactic Council that would change everything. The Krothan Empire, one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy, had sent 200 warships to surround a peaceful planet called Meridian 4. The gentle Leary people who lived there were begging for help, but the Council did nothing. What the Council did not know was that humanity had been protecting Meridian 4 in secret for months. The Leary had asked Earth for help when the Council refused. In the cold darkness of space near Meridian 4, reality itself seemed to tear open. A swirling tunnel of energy appeared, and from it emerged a ship unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The human battleship Indomitable had arrived. The Indomitable emerged from the quantum tunnel like a steel mountain moving through water. 3 kilometers of dark metal plating, covered with weapon systems that gleamed under the distant sun. The ship was massive, larger than anything the Krothan fleet had expected to see from the primitive humans. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Minji sat in her command chair, watching the tactical display light up with enemy contacts. 207 red dots surrounded the planet below. The Crothan fleet had formed a blockade, trapping the peaceful Leary people with nowhere to run. All enemy vessels detected and catalogued, reported Athena, the ship's artificial intelligence. Her voice was calm and precise. They are not in combat formation. They believe they are safe. First Officer Hyun stood beside Minji's chair, arms crossed. They think we are no threat. Minji allowed herself a small smile. Then we will educate them. Athena, open all communication channels. I want every ship in this system to hear what I say. Channels open, Captain. Minji spoke clearly, knowing her words would soon spread across half the galaxy. This is Captain Minji of the United Nations Space Command vessel Indomitable. To the Crothan Imperial Fleet, you are ordered to leave Meridian 4 immediately. This world is under human protection. You have 1 hour to withdraw. For a moment there was only silence. Then laughter exploded across the communication channel. The face of Admiral Vex Thor appeared on the main screen. He was an enormous reptilian creature with scales like armor and eyes that burned with arrogance. One ship. Vex Thor's voice was like grinding rocks. You dare threaten 200 warships with one vessel? Your courage is admirable, human, but your intelligence is clearly lacking. We are aware of the numbers, Minji replied calmly. We are also aware that in 40 minutes you will begin bombing the cities below. We cannot allow that. Vex Thor leaned closer to his camera, his teeth showing in a predatory smile. You would die for these weak creatures? How touching. Your destruction will be quick at least. Consider it a mercy. The screen went dark as he cut the transmission. 47 minutes until bombardment begins, Athena announced. Minji took a deep breath. All crew battle stations. Helm, bring us forward. Athena, target their command ships first, then the heavy cruisers. I want firing solutions on the top 20 threats. Calculating. Solutions ready, Captain. The Indomitable began moving toward the Crothan fleet, a single ship against 200. In the council chamber on Vex Prime, Taehyun received urgent reports and immediately ordered all sensors pointed at Meridian 4. If the humans were foolish enough to fight, their quick death would teach the galaxy an important lesson. The Crothan fleet spread out, preparing to surround and destroy the human ship. Vex Thor watched from his flagship, already imagining his victory speech. Then the Indomitable opened fire and everything changed. The human ship's rail cannons fired first. These were not energy weapons or plasma beams. They were physical projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds by electromagnetic force. Each tungsten rod hit with the power of a small nuclear explosion. The first Crothan cruiser simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was an expanding cloud of debris and fire. The second and third ships died before Vex Thor could even process what was happening. The Indomitable's weapons fired with mechanical precision, each shot perfectly calculated by Athena's advanced targeting systems. Return fire. Vex Thor screamed. All ships, destroy that vessel. The Crothan fleet unleashed everything they had. Plasma beams, missile swarms, and particle weapons all converged on the human battleship. The Indomitable's point defense systems activated immediately. Thousands of small projectiles shot out, intercepting incoming missiles with perfect accuracy. Energy shields absorbed the plasma beams, barely flickering under the assault. Then the Indomitable fired again. And again. And again. Each shot was calculated. Each target was chosen with mathematical precision. Athena analyzed the enemy formation, predicted their movements, and exploited every weakness. The human ship moved through the Crothan fleet like a surgeon with a scalpel, cutting away threats with clinical efficiency. Vex Thor watched in growing horror as ship after ship exploded or went dark. The humans were not just fighting, they were dominating. Their weapons were crude by galactic standards, just metal rods and explosive shells, yet they were devastatingly effective. How? Vex Thor whispered. How is this possible? In 23 minutes, 40 Crothan ships were destroyed or disabled. The rest of the fleet began to panic, breaking formation and attempting to flee. Attention Crothan fleet, Minji's voice cut through the chaos. You have 37 minutes remaining. Leave now or join your companions. Within hours, footage of the battle reached every corner of the galaxy. The recording showed everything in brutal clarity, a single human ship dismantling the mighty Crothan fleet with surgical precision. Species that had never heard of Earth suddenly knew the name Indomitable. In the Galactic Council chamber, emergency alarms blared as delegates rushed back to their seats. Taehyun stood at the central podium, his three eyes wide with shock as he replayed the battle footage for the fifth time. "This cannot be accurate," Counselor Vixare insisted, her mandibles clicking nervously. "Our sensors must be malfunctioning. One ship cannot defeat 200. "The data has been verified by 17 independent sources," Taehyun said quietly. His voice had lost all its earlier arrogance. "It is real." The holographic display showed the Indomitable moving through space, its weapons firing with mechanical precision. Each shot found its target. Each calculation was perfect. The Crothan ships, some of the most advanced warships in the known galaxy, fell like children's toys. High Arbiter Lux Ven leaned forward, his ancient face troubled. "Analyze their weapons. What technology are they using?" A technical officer stepped forward, a nervous four-armed creature from the Tech Guild. "That is what disturbs us most, Arbiter. They are using kinetic weapons. Metal projectiles accelerated by electromagnetic force. The same primitive technology we mocked 3 days ago." "Impossible," Reth declared, his crystalline body flashing with agitation. "Kinetic weapons are obsolete. Our shields can stop them easily." "Apparently not," the officer replied, manipulating the display. "The human projectiles are moving at relativistic speeds, nearly the speed of light. At those velocities, mass becomes energy. Each impact releases more power than our plasma cannons." Silence fell across the chamber. The implications were staggering. "What about their defenses?" asked a delegate from the aquatic Nereids. "Their point defense systems tracked and destroyed over 15,000 incoming missiles," the officer continued. "Their targeting computers operate at speeds we cannot match. And their shields absorbed sustained plasma fire from 80 ships without failing." Taehyun felt something cold settle in his stomach. "How long have the humans been in space?" 300 years, as we observed. "And in that time they developed this level of technology while we watched and did nothing?" Taehyun's voice rose. "How did we not know?" The answer came from an unexpected source. A communication channel opened, and Ambassador Jiwoo's face appeared on every screen in the chamber. She wore a simple diplomatic uniform and her expression was calm, almost friendly. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," she began. "You did not know because we chose not to tell you. For 300 years we have been watching. We listened to your communications. We studied your languages. We learned your technology and improved upon it. All while you ignored us and deemed us unworthy." Taehyun found his voice. "You spied on us?" "We observed you," Jiwoo corrected. "Just as you observed us. The difference is that we paid attention. We saw how the Council operates. We saw how the Vex Empire controls the smaller species through technological superiority. We saw the crimes you commit in the name of galactic order. This is outrageous." Vixare shouted. "You have no right." "We have every right," Jiwoo interrupted, her voice sharp as steel. "You laughed at our request for peaceful contact. You dismissed us as primitives. But when the Leary people begged for help against Crothan aggression, we did not laugh. We did not ignore them. We acted." New footage appeared on the displays showing the surface of Meridian 4. The gentle Leary people emerged from their shelters, looking up at the sky where the Indomitable hung in orbit like a guardian angel. Children waved at the human ship. Adults wept with relief. "The Leary have publicly thanked Earth for our protection," Jiwoo continued. "They have requested a formal alliance with humanity. We have accepted." Chaos erupted in the council chamber. Delegates shouted over each other, demanding explanations, threatening sanctions, calling for military action. Jiwoo waited for the noise to die down. When she spoke again, her voice carried across the chamber with quiet authority. "For too long, this council has been a tool of the powerful to control the weak. That ends now. Humanity will no longer seek your approval. We will no longer ask for permission to exist. We came in peace and you rejected us. But we will not be ignored again." The transmission ended, leaving the council in stunned silence. On 17 different worlds, smaller species who had suffered under council rule watched the same footage. In secret meetings, representatives began drafting messages to Earth. If the humans could stand up to the council, perhaps they could too. In a hidden facility, the Connexus, a hive mind species known for their psychic abilities, attempted to probe the mind of Captain Minji aboard the Indomitable. They encountered something they had never experienced before, mental barriers so complex and layered that penetrating them was impossible. Human minds, shaped by 300 years of science fiction and paranoia about telepathy, were naturally fortified against psychic invasion. The galaxy was watching. And the galaxy was beginning to change. The Galactic Council had never been so divided. Within days of the Meridian 4 incident, 3 factions emerged, each pulling the galaxy in different directions. Admiral Vexthor limped back to Crothan space with what remained of his fleet, only 94 ships out of 207. The Crothan Emperor was furious. He demanded the Council declare war on humanity immediately, calling them a threat to galactic security. They humiliated us. Vexthor roared at the emergency council session. They must be destroyed before they grow stronger. Give me a fleet of 1,000 ships and I will wipe Earth from existence. But not everyone agreed. 3 species had already sent secret messages to Earth, asking for defensive pacts. The small insectoid Kalara, who had been bullied by the Vex for centuries, saw humanity as potential protectors. The peaceful Meridians, cousins to the Lyri, wanted human friendship. Even some Nereids quietly reached out, tired of council policies that favored the strong over the weak. Taehyun watched his carefully constructed political structure crumbling. For 2,000 years, the Vex had controlled the council through technological monopoly and military might. They had suppressed any species that showed too much potential. They had enforced peace through fear. Now humanity threatened everything. We must negotiate, argued Councillor Resh, a progressive Vex who had always questioned the Empire's methods. The humans clearly want recognition and fair treatment. Give them a seat on the council. Make them partners instead of enemies. Never. Taehyun slammed his fist on the podium. They are primitives who got lucky. We will not reward their aggression. But even as he spoke, disturbing reports arrived from across the galaxy. Human technology was spreading. Species that had made contact with Earth were suddenly developing improved weapons and shields. The humans were sharing their knowledge freely, asking nothing in return except friendship and respect. The Vex Empire's intelligence division uncovered something even more alarming. Human scientists had been stealing and reverse engineering alien technology for decades. They had taken Vex plasma weapons and made them more efficient. They had studied Crothan armor and created better versions. They had analyzed every piece of technology they could find and improved upon it. They are not primitives, the intelligence director reported to Taehyun in a private meeting. They never were. They have been playing a long game, hiding their true capabilities while learning everything about us. Taehyun felt genuine fear for the first time in his long life. How many ships do they have? Unknown. We have confirmed sightings of 8 vessels of the Indomitable class. There may be more. 8. Taehyun's voice was barely a whisper. 8 ships like the one that destroyed Vexthor's fleet? At minimum, yes. The council's next session was interrupted by an announcement that sent shock waves through the chamber. Ambassador Jiwoo appeared on every screen, flanked by representatives from 12 different species. We are pleased to announce the formation of the Federation of Sovereign Worlds, Jiwoo declared. This federation is founded on principles of equality, mutual respect, and the right of all species to self-determination. Any species may join regardless of size or military power. Each member will have an equal voice. Taehyun immediately recognized the threat. This was a direct challenge to council authority. You cannot do this. The council is the legitimate governing body of the galaxy. The council governs only those who choose to be governed, Jiwoo replied calmly. We are simply offering an alternative. Within hours, 7 more species announced they were leaving the council to join the Federation. All were smaller species who had been marginalized or exploited under Vex rule. The exodus had begun. The Vex Empire responded with force. Taehyun authorized the deployment of the Peacekeepers, automated war drones that had enforced council will for 1,000 years. 200 Peacekeeper vessels moved toward Federation space, ready to crush the rebellion. They never arrived. The human fleet intercepted them at the Helios Gate, a strategic choke point between Council and Federation territory. The Indomitable was there, but she was not alone. 7 sister ships emerged from quantum fold space, forming a perfect defensive line. Admiral Taewon commanded the fleet from the UNSC Defiant. His message to the Peacekeepers was simple and direct. Turn back. This is your only warning. The automated drones, programmed for centuries of easy victories against helpless opponents, did not turn back. They attacked. 14 minutes later, all 200 Peacekeeper vessels were floating debris. The battle was broadcast across every inhabited world. Species watched in awe as human ships moved with coordinated precision, their weapons cutting through the supposedly invincible Peacekeepers like paper. On the Vex homeworld, riots broke out. Citizens who had believed in their empire's strength now saw the truth. The Vex were not invincible. They had ruled through fear and suppression, and now that rule was ending. In the council chamber, Taehyun sat alone in the darkness, watching his world collapse. The smaller species were rebelling. The peacekeepers were destroyed. And humanity had barely begun to reveal their true strength. His communication console chimed. It was a message from Admiral Taewon. Ambassador Taehyun, humanity does not seek your destruction. We seek only justice and equality. The choice of what happens next is yours. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Helios Gate, and the galaxy looked completely different. The old Galactic Council chamber on Vex Prime stood empty now, its crystal halls dark and silent. The new Federation Parliament met on a neutral world called Haven's Rest, a beautiful planet donated by the Leary people as a gift to humanity for saving them. The Parliament building was different from the old Council chamber. Instead of a central podium where the powerful stood above everyone else, there was a circular assembly where every delegate sat at the same level. 43 species had joined the Federation, and each one had an equal voice. Ambassador Jiwoo sat in one of 3 human seats, listening as delegates debated agricultural trade agreements. It was boring work, far less dramatic than the battles that had brought them here, but this was what real peace looked like, tedious negotiations over grain shipments and water rights. She smiled at the thought. This was what they had fought for. The Vex Empire still existed, though much reduced in size and power. Many Vex worlds had chosen to join the Federation, tired of their old government's aggressive policies. Taehyun himself had resigned in disgrace, replaced by the more progressive Resh, who immediately opened diplomatic relations with Earth. We were wrong, Resh had said in his first address to the Federation. We ruled through fear and suppression. We told ourselves it was for galactic order, but truly it was for our own benefit. Humanity has shown us a better way. Not everyone was happy with the changes. The Krothan Empire remained hostile, though they kept to their own borders now, wary of human military power. A few other species clung to the old ways, resentful of how quickly their privileged positions had vanished. But most of the galaxy had embraced the new order with surprising enthusiasm. Admiral Taewon, now promoted to Supreme Commander of Federation Security, stood in the newly established military headquarters on Haven's Rest. He was reviewing defense plans when his assistant brought unexpected news. Sir, Admiral Vex Thor of the Krothan Empire is requesting a meeting. A private one. Taewon raised an eyebrow. The same Vex Thor who swore to destroy humanity? The same, sir. The meeting took place in a small conference room, just the 2 former enemies facing each other across a simple table. Vex Thor looked older somehow, his scales duller than they had been at Meridian 4. I have come to offer my respect, the Krothan Admiral said quietly. And to apologize. Taewon said nothing, waiting. I was arrogant, Vex Thor continued. I believed that military might alone determined worth. I thought your single ship was a joke, an insult to proper warfare. You taught me otherwise. We did what was necessary, Taewon replied. Nothing more. You could have destroyed my flagship, Vex Thor said. Your weapons were precise enough. You could have killed me personally. But you left us alive, crippled but breathing. Why? Because dead enemies cannot become friends, Taewon answered simply. And because we wanted to send a message, we are powerful but we are not cruel. Vex Thor nodded slowly. The Krothan Empire will not join your federation. Not yet. Our pride is too wounded, our people too angry. But I wanted you to know that some of us understand what you did. You showed mercy when you could have shown vengeance. After Vex Thor left, Taewon stood at his window looking out at Haven's Rest. The planet was beautiful, with purple forests and silver oceans. On the streets below, he could see humans walking alongside Leary, Nereids swimming in public fountains beside Kalara children, Vex merchants trading peacefully with former enemies. This was what they had planned for. Not domination. Not revenge. Just a place at the table. The Indomitable had been decommissioned as promised. The great battleship now orbited Meridian 4 as a museum and memorial. Captain Minji had accepted a teaching position at the new Federation Naval Academy, training the next generation of officers from dozens of different species. But the galaxy was not entirely at peace. New threats were emerging from beyond the known systems, strange signals that suggested something vast and unknown was watching from the darkness between galaxies. In a classified briefing room, Fleet Commander Doon presented the latest findings to Federation leadership. The images showed massive energy signatures moving toward Federation space, unlike anything in their databases. Whatever they are big, Doon reported. And they are coming. Jiwoo studied the data with concern. How long until they arrive? 6 months? Maybe less. The delegates looked at each other with worry, but also with determination. 6 months ago they had been divided, weak, ruled by fear. Now they were united. Admiral Taewon stood and addressed the assembly. Then we have 6 months to prepare. Not as separate species but as one federation. Together. In a small park on Haven's Rest, a human child named Sora played with a leery child named Thelmin. They chased each other through the purple grass, laughing in 2 different languages that somehow meant the same thing. Their parents sat on a nearby bench, a human engineer and a leery botanist, discussing plans to terraform a barren moon into a garden world. They spoke of the future with hope instead of fear. Above them, stars glittered in an alien sky. Somewhere out there, unknown dangers approached. But the galaxy was no longer silent. It sang with 1,000 voices, and among them humanity had finally found its place. Not as conquerors. Not as victims. But as partners in building something better. The end.